She swore we were soulmates, but this mysterious alien vampire was a total stranger. Darius Kane's first thought when he woke up was that his skull had been replaced with a malfunctioning reactor core his. Second thought was that someone was in his apartment, someone who definitely wasn't supposed to be there, a dull crimson glow flickered from the far corner of the room, illuminating the silhouette of a tall, slender woman. She stood with an eerie stillness, her long ears twitching slightly as if listening to something beyond his range of perception. Darius groaned, and onto his side, clutching his forehead, his mouth tasted like synthetic whiskey. In regret, look, if you're here to kill me, at least let me get a cup of coffee. First, the woman chuckled, a low, velvety sound that sent a shiver down his spine. Oh, love. You've always been dramatic. His body went rigid. That voice, there was something unsettlingly familiar about it, something that curled around the edges of his mind like an old song half remembered. He for himself upright, squinting through the dim light. The woman stepped forward, the neon blue glow from his hollow clock illuminated her face, a face too perfect, too sharp, as if sculpted by an artist who didn't believe in imperfections. Her crimson eyes gleamed with a knowing amusement, and then there were the ears, long, elegant, and slightly pointed, twitching in a way that was distinctly not human. Darius blinked. Well, either I'm still drunk, or I just woke up in the wrong genre of my life. She smirked. You always did use humor as a defense mechanism. He ran a hand through his messy black hair, trying to piece together how this situation could possibly make sense. Okay, lady mine, telling me why you broke into my apartment, or are we skipping straight to the murder part? She tilted her head, the movement eerily fluid, almost predatory. Darius, she said softly, taking a step closer, I'm your wife. Silence. Darius stared at her, brain short-circuiting. Then he laughed, a dry, incredulous laugh that echoed through the cramped apartment. Right, and I'm the Emperor of Jupiter, lady. I don't even have a girlfriend, let alone up. He stopped mid-sentence as a thought struck him like a meteor to the face. His gaze snapped back to hers. Wait, did I get married while I was drunk? A single elegant brow arched. No, love, we've been married for years. Darius stared at her again, this time with genuine unease creeping into his veins. Okay, he said, lifting a finger. Let's break this down. One, I have no memory of you. Two, you have vampire eyes and alien ears. And three, did I mention I have no memory of you? She sighed, folding her arms. That's because your memories were stolen by Lord Zyros. Darius frowned. That sounds made up. It's not it. Definitely sounds made up. Valera, because that was apparently her name, let out a long, suffering sigh, as if she'd been through this before. She reached into the folds of her sleek dark coat and pulled out a small, smooth device. It hummed to life in her palm, projecting a holographic image into the air. Darius squinted at the flickering display. It was a video, and not just any video. It was him standing beside her, his breath caught in the recording. He looked different, younger maybe. His usual scruffy look had been replaced by something more refined. His dark hair neatly combed back, his eyes sharper, more determined. He was wearing some kind of high-tech armor, and his arm was slung casually around Valor's shoulders. As she smirked at him, they looked happy. Darius swallowed. Okay, that's some impressive hollow editing. Valera gave him a flat look. It's not fake. Look, lady, Valera, whatever, if I was actually married to a space vampire, don't you think I'd remember that you would? She admitted, if Zyros hadn't erased everything. He rubbed his temples. Okay, so let's say hypothetically that this isn't some elaborate prank. What does this Lord Zyros guy want with me? Before Valera could answer, a low, rhythmic beat sing filled the room. Darius stiffened. That was his security system. Vala's expression darkened. They found us. Who found us? The bounty hunters. Darius groaned. Of course, I have bounty hunters after me. Why wouldn't I? The walls of his apartment trembled as something heavy slammed against the outer corridor. A voice crackled through a speaker, "Come out quietly, Kane, and we won't turn your bones into spare parts." Darius exhaled through his nose, arming. Valera reached into her coat and pulled out a sleek alien-looking weapon. "Stay behind me, yeah. No offense, but I'm not really the stay-behind type." She shot him a sideways glance. "Oh, I know," with a deafening blast, the apartment door exploded. Inward smoke and debris filled the air as figures in heavy armor stormed inside. Valera moved faster than Darius could register, her body a blur as she launched herself at the nearest attacker. Darius ducked. As the plasma bolt barely missed his head, he scrambled behind his couch, yanking open the compartment where he kept his blaster, because even a washed-up ex-pilot like him wasn't dumb enough to live on Mars Colony Delta. "For unarmed Valera, I hope you have a plan," he yelled over the chaos. She twisted midair, slamming a boot into a bounty hunter's helmet, sending them crashing into the wall. "Yes," she called back. "Step 1, survive. Step 2, run. Step 3, steal a ship." Darius fired a shot, hitting one of the mercs in the knee. "I like step 3. Valera grabbed him by the wrist and yanked him toward the blown-out window. "Then let's go." Darius took one look at the 5-story drop. "Yeah, no." Valera didn't give him a choice. With a smirk, she wrapped an arm around his waist and jumped. Darius screamed all the way down. Darius had never really considered the aerodynamics of being thrown out of a 5th-story window by a vampire woman who claimed to be his wife. Now, as he plummeted toward the neon-lit streets of Mars Colony Delta 4, it occurred to him that this was a significant oversight. "This is a terrible plan," he yelled. Valera, who had somehow managed to look graceful midair, just grinned. "You used to love this pretty." "Sure I didn't." The wind roared around them as they fell, and Darius caught a brief glimpse of the bounty hunters above, leaning over the shattered remains of his apartment window. One of them aimed a plasma rifle at him. "Oh, come on." Before he could finish cursing his luck, Valera twisted in midair and yanked him toward a hovering cargo drone passing beneath them. The metal platform wasn't exactly designed to catch falling idiots, but it was better than splattering across the street like a bad mural. They hit the drone hard, rolling across its surface. As the vehicle wobbled from the sudden impact, Darius groaned, staring up at the Martian night sky dotted with smog-covered stars and floating holograms, advertising everything from cybernetic limb replacements to genetically modified houseplants. "That was awful," he muttered. Valera sat up, completely unbothered. "Yauk, get used to it." Again, Darius rolled onto his side, glaring at her. "Are you telling me this was a regular occurrence in our so-called marriage?" Valera grinned, flashing just the hint of fangs. "You always enjoyed the excitement." Darius groaned. "Sounds like past me had brain damage." A plasma bolt whizzed past them, frying a nearby billboard that had been advertising something called Spicy Space Noodles now, with 50% more heat death. "Less talking, more running," Valera said. Darius peeked over the edge of the drone. The bounty hunters had already recovered and were pursuing them on sleek black hover bikes, their weapons glowing menacingly. "Great," Darius muttered. "Why is it never tax collectors chasing me? Because you never paid taxes," Valera said, yanking him up by his arm. "Fair point." The drone wobbled as more plasma fire struck, it sending sparks flying. Valera grabbed his wrist and sprinted toward the edge. "Jump," she commanded. Darius let out a strangled laugh. "You know what? No, I just jumped out of a window." "I'm done jumping. Suit yourself," Valera said cheerfully. Right," before she shoved him off the drone. Darius screamed, flailing wildly as they dropped onto the roof of a passing hover truck. He landed hard, rolling across the metallic surface and nearly toppling over the edge. Valera meanwhile landed with the elegance of a cat, and casually stretched like this was a routine Tuesday you have to stop doing. That Darius wheezed. Valera helped him up, then. Start jumping on your own, Darius. Swayed slightly, staring at her. Are you enjoying this, she? Till eat her head, ears twitching slightly a little before Darius could come up with an appropriately dramatic complaint. The bounty hunters accelerated toward them, their hover bikes cutting through the air like sleek black knives. The leader, a heavily armored brute with cybernetic arms, barked a command into his comms. Target secured. Lord Zyros wants him alive. Darius felt a chill crawl up his spine. There was that name again. Zeros, the opposed memory-stealing warlord who had apparently deleted an entire marriage from his brain. Before he could process the implications, Valera reached into her coat and pulled out a sleek metallic device. She pressed a button and the air around them rippled. Darius barely had time to react before a ship decloaked above them, a sleek gunmetal gray spacecraft with a design that screams stolen military tech. Is that ours? Darius asked, eyes wide. It is now, Valera said, grabbing in him by the waist before he could protest the sudden invasion of personal space. She launched them off the truck with a powerful leap, landing smoothly on the ship's open boarding ramp. Darius, on the other hand, flopped onto the floor like a dying fish. Valera hit a control panel, and the ramp closed behind them as the ship's engines roared to life. The bounty hunters opened fire, plasma bolts slamming against the ship's shields, but Valera was already sprinting toward the cockpit. Darius groaned, dragging himself to his feet. I hate everything about this day. You'll survive, Valera called over her shoulder, not the ringing endorsement I was hoping. For by the time he stumbled into the cockpit, Valor was already flipping switches and bringing the ship online. The control panels flickered to life, filling the space with an eerie blue glow. Darius popped into the co-pilot seat, still catching his breath. So, do you actually know how to fly this thing? Lara gave him a sideways look. Do you? Darius hesitated. Oh no, then don't question me, she said sweetly, yanking the control stick. The ship shot forward like a bullet, leaving the bounty hunters scrambling to follow. Darius gripped the edges of his seat. Can we not do the reckless flying thing? Valera smirked. You used to be a pilot, love. You should feel at home. Darius glared at her. I also used to have memories. Let's focus on now. The ship swerved sharply through the maze of neon-lit skyscrapers, dodging between cargo freighters and high-speed transit lines. The bounty hunters followed in tight formation, their hover bikes weaving through the city like predatory drones. All right, hot shot, Darius said, scanning the control panels. Any idea how we lose these guys? Valera didn't answer immediately. Her eyes flickered with something sharp and calculating. I have an idea, she said finally, but you're not going to like it. Darius exhaled through his nose. Valera, I have already been thrown out of a window today. It can't get worse. Valera smiled. We'll see about that. And with that, she turned the ship upward directly toward the towering skyline. Darius's stomach lurched. Oh no. No, no, the bounty hunters followed, accelerating to match their climb. The ship shot past skyscrapers, past the upper levels of the colony, heading straight for the massive glowing energy dome that separated Mars Colony Delta 4 from the cold, suffocating void of space. Darius' eyes widened. Wait, are we? Valera grinned. Yes, the bounty hunters realized. A second too late, Valera yanked the ship through the dome's emergency maintenance gap, something only someone with very illegal access codes could do. The bounty hunters, however, were not so lucky there. Hover bikes slammed against the energy barrier, like bugs on a windshield. Darius slumped in his seat, gasping. I hate you. Valera smirked. Yout, get over it. As the ship sped into the darkness of space, Darius let out a long, exhausted Sahi had a feeling things were only going to get worse. Darius had a rule about space travel, and it was a very simple one: never fly into open space with someone who just threw you out of a window. Yet here he was strapped into the co-pilot seat of a stolen starship, speeding away from Mars Colony Delta 4. With an alien vampire woman who claimed to be his wife. The universe, he decided, had a really messed up sense of humor. He exhaled and rubbed his face. All right, let's start with the basics. Where exactly are we going? Valera, who had taken the pilot seat with all the confidence of someone who either knew what they were doing or was very good at pretending, tapped a few glowing controls. Somewhere safe. Darius gave her a flat look. See, I don't love how vague that is. She smirked without looking at him. It's a habit. You used to tell me you found my mysterious nature alluring. Darius scoffed. Yeah, well, current me finds it annoying. Valera chuckled, but didn't answer. Instead, she reached for a lever above her head. We're making a jump to FTL. Hold on to the ship lurched as it shot into faster than light speed. Darius was immediately flattened against his seat as stars outside stretched into him, impossibly long streaks of white. His stomach twisted like someone had just decided to rearrange all his organs for fun. He groaned. I hate this part. Valera grinned, completely unaffected. You used to love this part too. Darius opened one-eyed. Me have any self-preservation instincts? Debatable. With a final shudder, the ship stabilized, settling into the eerie calm of FTL travel. The streaks outside became a smooth tunnel of blue and white, stretching infinitely ahead of them. Darius let out a breath. Okay, south now that we're not being shot at. Maybe you can explain a few things. Valera leaned back in her seat, her crimson eyes glowing faintly in the dim cockpit lights. What do you want to know? Darius gestured broadly. Let's start with the obvious. Who exactly is Lord Zyros? Why does he want me, and why do I apparently have the memory retention of a defective toaster? Valera studied him for a moment, then let out a slow breath. Lord Zyros is a warlord, a powerful one. He rules the Outlands, the lawless fringe of the galaxy. He's a master of bioengineering, cybernetics, and she hesitated. Mind manipulation. Darius frowned. Mind manipulation? She nodded. Zyros doesn't just conquer planets. He rewrites people, wipes memories, implants false ones, erases entire histories. He doesn't just control territory, he controls minds. Darius swallowed. And let me guess, he did this to me. Val's gaze softened. Yes. He let out a slow breath, trying to process that. All right, Leton. Say I believe you. Why would some galactic warlord care about me? Valera hesitated again. Because you weren't just some pilot, Darius. You were a revolutionary. You and I, we were leading a resistance against him. Darius blinked. Come again. You were one of the best pilots in the galaxy. Valera continued, her voice steady, but tinged with something that sounded almost like longing. You helped build the rebellion. We fought together for years. We were unstoppable. Darius snorted. Yeah, well past me sounds like a reckless idiot. Valor's lips twitched. But you were my reckless idiot. Darius coughed, feeling unexpectedly warm under her gaze. Okay, well, still processing the whole freedom fighter thing. But let's focus on the part where my entire memory got turned into space dust. How did Zyros do that? Valor's expression darkened. He captured you, tortured you, and then she exhaled. He wiped you, completely erased everything. We were everything you were. Darius's stomach twisted. Valera leaned forward, eyes burning with quiet intensity. I searched for you for years. Darius, years. I thought you were dead, and then a month ago I found traces of you alive, but living on Mars Colony Delta 4 under a fake identity. Darius hesitated. So what, you just showed up to drag me back into this mess? I showed up to save you, she corrected, because Zyros isn't done with you. Darius let out a humorless laugh. Great, just what I needed, more problems. She smirked. You always did attract trouble. He exhaled, leaning back in his chair. All right, let's say I believe all of this. And let's say I was some kind of rebel hero. Why not just leave me? Why risk your life coming after someone who doesn't even remember you? Valor's expression softened. Because you're not just some rebel hero, you're my husband. Darius felt something tighten in his chest. He held her gaze for a long moment, then sighed. You really expect me to believe that? Valera reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver ring. She held it up between two fingers. This was yours. Darius frowned. Valera pressed a small button on the side of the ring, and suddenly a tiny hologram flickered to life. It was a video. Him and her. They were standing on a lush green planet, one Darius definitely didn't recognize. He looked different in the video, stronger, more confident and happy. In the hologram, Valera leaned in, pressing a kiss to his cheek. I love you, you idiot, she murmured. Hollow. Darius laughed, wrapping an arm around her. Yeah, you just like me for my good looks. Valera smirked. Well, that is a bonus. The hologram flickered out. Darius swallowed. He could feel his heart pounding, his brain screaming at him that this was insane, but deep down, buried beneath the confusion and sarcasm and sheer what the hess of this situation, something inside him ucked. Valera watched him carefully. I know this is a lot, she said softly, but I promise you, Darius, I will help you remember no matter how long it takes. Darius exhaled slowly. Then after a long pause, he nodded. All right, he muttered. Guess I'm in. Valera smiled, and against all odds, something about that smile made Darius feel like maybe, just maybe, he had made the right choice the first thing Darius learned about space travel with an alien vampire woman who claimed to be his wife was that she snored not a delicate, dignified snore, number a full-bodied, rumbling, borderline industrial snore, the kind of sound that made you question whether the ship had an engine problem he had tried to ignore. It rolling onto his side in the tiny bunk he had claimed, but sleep was impossible between the adrenaline crash. The whole I was apparently a rebel hero, and also married revelation, and the very real possibility that a space warlord was hunting him down rest seemed like a luxury his brain had no interest in. Granting him. Groaning, he sat up and rubbed his face. This is my life now, he muttered, running from bounty hunters with a woman who can probably rip my spine out and uses my ship as a snore amplifier. Valera sprawled across the bunk opposite him, did not respond. Darius sighed and stood, deciding he might as well get a better look at the ship. If he was going to be stuck on it, he should at least know if it had anything useful, maybe a coffee maker, maybe a self-destruct button if things got really bad. The ship was small, but sleek, clearly military grade, despite the fact that Valor had somehow stolen it. The cockpit was compact, but well equipped with advanced scanning arrays and weapon systems that he definitely didn't know how to use. The cargo bay held an assortment of crates, some with labels he recognized, some written in languages that probably required extra throat muscles to pronounce, but it was the engine room that made his eyebrows shoot up. Whoa, he muttered, stepping inside. The ship's core wasn't standard at all. Instead of the usual fusion-based drive, it had something far more advanced, a gravitic compression core, the kind usually reserved for top-tier warships. This thing shouldn't even exist on a ship this size, he whispered. It was powerful, too powerful and dangerous. If this thing went critical, they wouldn't just explode, they disappear in a flash of compressed spacetime, like a very unfortunate science experiment. Enjoying the view, Darius jumped, spinning around to see Valera leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, ears twitching slightly. He scowled. Can you not sneak up on me? She smirked. You used to have better reflexes. Well, I used to have memories too. But here we are. Valera rolled her eyes and stepped into the room. You always loved this part of the ship. Spent hours tweaking the engines, trying to make it go faster, even when I told you it was already illegally fast. Darius narrowed his eyes. Wait, this was our ship? She nodded. He looked around again. Why does it feel like you stole it? Then because I did, she said, smiling sweetly. Darius rubbed his temples. I Don't even want to know. Valera stepped up beside him, glancing at the core. We should be careful with this thing. It's unpredictable, especially with the modifications you made. Darius blinked. I modified this, oh. Extensively. That feels like something I should remember. Valera studied him for a moment. It'll come back, he said softly. Darius wasn't so sure before he could respond. The ship's warning klaxons blared. Valor's expression hardened instantly. She turned and sprinted toward the cockpit, Darius right behind her. As they slid into their seats, the screens flared to life, displaying a proximity alert. Darius frowned. What is that? V's fingers danced over the controls, pulling up a visual feed. A ship, large, bulky, and bristling with weaponry, was emerging from FTL, directly in their path. Darius let out a slow breath. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's not a friendly. Valor's jaw tightened. That's a Zur-Royan war cruiser. Darius stared at Hero. Do they keep finding us? She exhaled sharply. Because Zyros has technology that shouldn't exist. He can track things even through FTL. Oh, fantastic. The comm system crackled to life. A deep mechanical voice spoke. Unidentified vessel, power down and prepare for boarding. You are in violation of Lord Zyra's domain. Darius glanced at Valera. Well, that sounds unpleasant. Vala's eyes darken. We can't let them board. Darius sighed. All right, options. She glanced at him. We could fight. He pointed at the warcruiser, which was many times their size. I don't love our odds, she considered. Or we could do something very, very stupid. Darius groaned. Why is it always the stupid option? Valera grinned and slammed the throttle forward. The ship lurched, rocketing toward the warcruiser at full speed. Darius flailed. What are you doing? Trust me, I barely know you. The warcruiser's weapons powered up, targeting systems locking onto them. Darius braced for impact, but at the last possible second, Valera yanked the controls down, sending them into a gut-wrenching spin beneath the enemy ship's hold. Darius yelped as the artificial gravity struggled to keep up. I'm going to die. Valera, completely calm, angled the ship toward a ventral docking port. Then, with a smirk, she hit a button. The ship suddenly vanished. Darius blinked. What? Just cloaking field, Valera said smugly. Old smuggler trick. Darius slumped in his seat. I hate this. I hate everything about this. She patted his shoulder. You'll get used to it. Again, the warcruiser, unable to detect them, drifted forward, scanning empty space. Valera eased the ship away, her expression triumphant. And that is how you lose a Zean warship. Darius let out a breath. Okay, that was almost impressive. Valera winked. Oh, I'm always impressive. Darius groaned, rubbing his temples. Please tell me you at least have coffee on this ship. Valera hesitated. Darius frowned. You do have coffee, right? Val cleared her throat. You're defined coffee. Darius stared at Hero. My God. Valera smirked. Welcome back to the rebellion. Love. Darius had survived a lot of things in the last 24 hours, being thrown out of a window, dodging bounty hunters, and narrowly escaping a warcruiser piloted by people who apparently hated him. But now he was facing what might be the greatest challenge of all. Valera's cooking. He eyed the steaming bluish-gray mush in his bowl. It smelled like something he just wasn't sure if it was food or an industrial lubricant. Valera sat across from him, eating with zero hesitation. You going to stare at it all day, or are you going to eat? Darius prodded the substance with his fork. It jiggled, it moved. She rolled her eyes. It's protein paste. You used to love it. Darius arched a brow. See, I'm getting the distinct impression that past me was either a liar or had significantly lower standards for food. Valera smirked. Both things can be true. Darius exhaled dramatically, then took a tentative bite and immediately regretted it. It wasn't just bad, it was offensive. The taste hit his tongue like it was trying to mug him. It was bitter, somehow also sour, and carried the unmistakable aftertaste of regret. He gagged. Oh no, nope, nope, nope. Nope. Valera laughed. Oh, come on, it's not that bad. Darius reached for his water like a man desperately trying to save his own life. It tastes like a tire fire in my mouth. Valera shrugged, taking Another bite, you're being dramatic. I'm being accurate, she smirked. You always whined about food. Once, during a supply run, you refused to eat anything that wasn't labeled in standard galactic Darius. Leaned back, well, excuse me for not wanting to accidentally eat an alien. Parasite, she grinned. Good news, this isn't a parasite. Darius gestured at the bowl. That's not good news, Valera laughed again, shaking her head. Fine, next time we land somewhere, I'll get you something properly disgusting. Darius sighed in relief. A burger, I just want a burger. Valera smirked. Fine, but first we need to deal with your whole being hunted by a galactic warlord problem. Darius groaned. Oh, that minor inconvenience. Valera leaned forward, ward her tone, growing more serious. We need to get you to a memory specialist. Darius frowned. A what? There's a woman, Valor explained. Dr. Lyra Vessa. She's one of the best neuros specialists in the galaxy. If anyone can help recover what Zyros erased, it's her. Darius hesitated. And where is she? Valera exhaled. Vox's prime. Darius blinked, then blinked again. Vox's prime, the box's prime. Valera nodded. Oh sure, Darius said, throwing his hands up. Great idea. Let's go straight to the most corrupt, crime-infested hellhole in the entire galaxy. What could possibly go wrong? Valera smirked. You used to love Voxus. Darius let out an exasperated groan. Past me really needs to stop setting expectations. I can't live up to. Valera chuckled. Relax, I have a contact there. Someone who can get us in without drawing attention. Darius sigh. I feel like I should argue, but I really want to know what's in my brain. Valera patted his shoulder. That's the spirit, he muttered under his breath, more like the spirit of terrible decisions. Vox's prime came into view several hours later, a planet covered in sprawling neonlit mega-cities, shadowy underworlds, and absolutely no laws whatsoever. As they descended into the atmosphere, Darius couldn't help but stare out the viewport. Okay, I kind of get why past me like this place. Voxus was alive in a way. Few places were towering buildings stretched into the sky, covered in glowing holographic billboards. Ships zipped between them, weaving through the dense air traffic like an endless chaotic ballet. Valera maneuvered them toward a less reputable district, a section of the city that looked like it hadn't seen proper maintenance in decades. Rusted landing platforms, flickering street lights, and an overall vibe of definitely going to get robbed. Darius crossed his arms. So let me guess, your contact is some kind of black market doctor. Valera smiled. Something like that. Darius sighed. Great, I love dealing with shady criminals. Valera landed the ship and powered it down. You'll be fine, Darius grumbled, but followed her out. They made their way through the crowded streets, dodging vendors, selling probably illegal goods, cybernetic street thugs, and at least 3 different people trying to sell guaranteed immortality serums. Finally, they reached a dingy, unmarked building. Valera knocked twice, then stepped back. A slot in the door slid open. 2 glowing mechanical eyes peered out. A growly voice spoke. Password. Valera smirked. If I give you the password, do I get a discount? A pause. Then no. Valera sighed. Fine, Nova Eclipse. The door unlocked with a heavy thunk. Inside, the clinic was surprisingly clean. Sleek medical equipment, glowing monitors in a faint sterile scent. It was a sharp contrast to the outside. Whirled a woman in a long, high-collared coat turned from one of the monitors. She was tall, with silver cybernetic implants running down the sides of her face and eyes that glowed with an eerie white light. Dr. Lyra Vessa. She studied Darius for a long moment. So you finally found him. Valera nodded. Took long enough. Darius cleared his throat. Hello, doctor. Vessa smirked. You don't remember me, do you? Darius blinked. Should I? She chuckled. Number, but you used to owe me a lot of money. Darius groaned. Oh, fantastic. Valera grinned. We here for something else? Vessa nodded. I know. Sit down. Darius hesitated. This isn't going to hurt, Is it Vesa? Smirked, not physically. Darius groaned. That's not comforting. Valera patted his shoulder. Auk, be fine. Darius sighed. You keep saying that. As he sat in the examination chair, he had a sinking feeling that this was going to be anything but fine. The problem with memory recovery, Darius quickly realized, was that it felt an awful lot like being punched in the brain by a very enthusiastic robot. Dr. Vesa had barely finished calibrating her equipment before she pressed a cold metallic device against his temple. The device word beeped, then zapped him with something that felt like a cross between static electricity and getting smacked in the head with a frying pan. Darius yelped. Ow, what the hell? Vesa didn't even blink. Good, that means it's working. Darius shot Valera a glare. Define working. Valera, entirely too amused, simply leaned back in her chair. You're not dead. That's a good start. Vesa adjusted the controls on her hollow display, completely ignoring Darius's suffering. Your neural pathways have been altered. Zyros didn't just erase your memories, he fragmented them, scattered them in non-sequential clusters. Darius groaned. That sounds bad. Vesa shrugged. It's creative and incredibly illegal, even by Vox's prime standards. Valera smirked, which means we can assume Zyros has something to hide. Darius rubbed his temples. Fantastic, I love being a walking mystery. Vesa tapped a few more buttons, and suddenly his vision exploded. Not literally, but it felt like it. One moment, he was sitting in a dimly lit clinic, and the next, he was somewhere else, somewhere cold. The air was thick with frost, his breath curling into mist. As he exhaled, he stood in what looked like a massive underground bunker, dimly lit by eerie blue lights. Walls of metal and ice stretched into the darkness, and the distant hum of machinery filled the air. And in the center of the room was him, or at least another version of him. Darius staggered back. What the other him was kneeling, his hands gripping a control panel covered in alien symbols. He was breathing hard, his expression one of pure desperation, and behind him, a figure. Valera, but not this Valera. Her long ears twitched as she stepped toward him, her eyes glowing a deep, unnatural crimson. She was different, colder, more dangerous, and she was bleeding deep. Gashes ran along her arms. Her sleek, dark armor damaged her, breathing ragged. Darius, his past self, turned to her. We have to do this. It's the only way. Valera clenched her jaw. You don't know that past. Darius gritted his teeth. We don't have time to argue. Valera stepped closer, grabbing his wrist. Listen to me. If you do this, you won't remember past. Darius hesitated. I don't care. Valor grip tightened. I do. And then a pulse of energy, everything shattered. Darius snapped back into reality so fast he nearly fell out of the chair. Vesa raised an eyebrow. That was dramatic. Darius sucked in a sharp breath, heart hammering. What the hell was that? Valera was staring at him now, her expression unreadable. You saw something. Darius rubbed his face. Not just something, a memory. Vesa nodded. Good, that means we're getting somewhere. Darius took a shaky breath. I was in a bunker, somewhere cold. There was a machine, some kind of control panel. And you, he looked at Valera. You were there. But you look different. And we were arguing. Valor's eyes darkened slightly. About what? Darius hesitated. I think I was about to do something dangerous. Something that would wipe my memory. Silence. Then Vesa smirked. Well, that's juicy. Darius shot her a look. Oh, so glad you're entertained. Valera exhaled. If that's true, then Zyros didn't just erase your memories. You did. Darius felt a chill crawl up his spine. Why would I do that? Valera didn't answer. Vesa, on the other hand, was typing away at her console. There's more buried in there. I can try pulling another fragment, but Darius held up a hand. Hard pass on another brain punch. Thanks. Vesa shrugged. Suit yourself. Darius exhaled, leaning forward. So what now? Valera crossed her arms. Now we find out where that bunker is. Darius raised an eyebrow, and then Valor's expression was grim. Then we find out why you erased yourself, Darius. Sighed, oh yeah, that sounds like a really fun adventure Varara smirked you used to. Love danger, Darius groaned. Seriously, pass me needs to stop, Vesa chuckled. If you do survive this, try not to forget me again. I hate losing good customers. Darius rolled his eyes. I wasn't a customer, you literally just tortured me, Vesa grinned. And I had a great time. Valera stood stretching, come on hero. Let's go find a frozen death trap, Darius muttered under his breath as he followed her out. He had the sinking feeling that things were about to get a lot worse. Before they got better, the ice cracked under Darius's boots as he and Valor stepped into the cavernous bunker. The air was thick with frost, their breath misting, as they moved cautiously forward. Towering metal pillars lined the walls, some flickering with dim, failing lights. A vast control panel stretched across the room, its alien symbols pulsing with an eerie blue glow. Darius had been here. Before he knew it, now Valor was silent beside him, her crimson eyes scanning the space with something between weariness and sorrow. Darius took a slow breath. All right, time for some answers. You want to tell me why I wiped my own memory? Vala hesitated, then stepped toward the console. Her fingers brushed the surface, and the interface reacted instantly. Symbols shifting, pulsing, she turned back to him. This place, she said softly, was a vault. Your vault, Darius blinked. My what? She exhaled, crossing her arms. A storage facility for information, for weapons, for technology so dangerous that no one, not even you, should have access to it. Darius felt a pit form in his stomach. What kind of tech? Valor's gaze darkened. The kind that could wipe out civilizations. Darius whistled. Wow, so Pimi wasn't just reckless, he was ambitiously reckless. Valera shot him a look. It wasn't about ambition, it was about Zyros. Darius frowned. That bastard again? Valera nodded. He wanted what was in here, and you. She hesitated. You made a choice. She turned back to the console, tapping a few commands. A holographic image flickered to life above the controls. Darius sucked in a sharp breath. It was him, or rather a past version of him, standing in this very room, looking battered, exhausted, and standing beside him, Valera. She looked just as she had in his fragmented memory. The recording crackled. We don't have much time, Pa. Darius said. His voice was rough, strained. Zyros is coming. If he gets this, if he gets me, the entire galaxy is screwed. Valera in the recording clenched her fists. There has to be another way. There isn't. Pasteria said the only way to keep this from him is to lock it away. Lock me away. Darius felt his throat tighten. I erased myself to protect the galaxy. Varara gave him a sad smile. It was the only way. Darius exhaled. Okay, but if I was such a self-sacrificing hero, why didn't I just die dramatically instead of pulling a self-imposed amnesia stunt? Valera smirked. Because you were a narcissist, and like the idea of a backup plan. Darius sighed. Sounds about right. The recording continued past. Darius reached into coat and pulled out a small glowing device, something that looked like a crystal but pulsed with energy. He pressed it against his temple, and a brilliant light flared. Then the recording cut out. Darius ran a hand through his hair. Let me guess, that crystal thing was my brain's self-destruct button. Valera nodded. A neural disruptor. It erased everything that connected you to this vault, to this knowledge. You became just another drifter. Darius groaned. And Zyra still wants me, because Valera crossed her arms, because if you remember everything, you'll remember how to access the rest of what's in here. Darius exhaled. Right, of course, because life just has to be difficult. A new voice cut through the cavern. Oh, don't worry, it's about to get much worse. A deep mechanical hum filled the air. Darius and Valera spun, just in time to see the entrance explode inward. Shards of ice and metal flying as a towering figure stepped through the smoke. Zyros, the Warlord was just as terrifying in person as Darius had imagined 7 feet tall his. Skin a dark obsidian metal sheen, glowing red cybernetic eyes locked onto them his. Armor hummed with energy, his massive arms crackling with built-in plasma weapons. Well, Darius muttered, "That's a." Lot of villain Valor's hand flew to her weapon. Zyros, the warlord grinned. Valera. "You've been very annoying." Darius raised a hand. "For what it's worth, I'm also pretty annoyed." Zero's gay snapped to him. "Ah, the lost man himself." Darius sighed. Yeah, former genius, current confused. "Idiot, what do you want? A reunion?" Hug. Cyrus grin. "Why didn't I want what's mine?" Darius raised an eyebrow. "See, I'm pretty sure this vault doesn't have a property of Zyro's sticker on it." Cyrus arm hummed. And a blast of plasma shot toward them. Valera yanked Darius aside, just in time. The explosion scorching the ground. Where they'd been standing, Darius coughed. "Okay. He's not here for negotiation." Valera pulled her gun, firing off several quick shots. Zeros deflected them with an energy shield, striding forward like an unstoppable force. Darius's brain raced. They couldn't win this fight. Head on they needed. He looked at the console, and an idea hit him. "Valera, cover me." She hesitated, then nodded, diving behind cover and laying down suppressing fire. Darius sprinted for the control panel, skidding to a stop as he frantically scanned the interface. His past self had built this place, which meant there had to be a fail-safe there. A flashing emergency override. Darius slammed his hand onto it. A deep rumble shook the vault. Cyrus's eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" Darius grinned. "Let's just say I hit the eject button." The walls around them began to shift. Mechanical locks disengaged. The floor trembled. Then a massive pulse of energy erupted from the console, sending a shock wave across the bunker. Zyros roared as his systems overloaded, sparks flying from his cybernetic limbs. He staggered back, his shield failing, his weapons flickering. Darius grabbed Valor's hand. Time to go. They bolted for the exit. As the vault's fail-safe activated, the ground beneath Zyros collapsed, sending him plunging into the icy depths below. A final echoing scream, then silence outside. Darius and Valera stumbled onto the snowy plains, breathing hard. The vault's doors sealed behind them, locking its secrets away once more. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then Darius turned to Valera. "So, that was dramatic." She chuckled. "You always did have a flair for the absurd." Darius exhaled. "So what now?" Valera studied him, then smiled. "Now we live." Darius smirked, preferably with less amnesia. "Next time." Valera grinned. "Deal." And together, they walked into the unknown, this time with no more secrets between them. The end.